And we're live with the Live Masters TV showcase with our special guest, Margaret DeBellotte. Super excited that we finally got this interview in. She completed a Live Masters video interview challenge, man, I think probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's been, right?
I've been waiting. I've been like this.
Well, you've been busy too. You're a very busy woman. You're not in one place for too long. And you actually help empower people. You're a job coach. You're an inspirational, whatever you want to call it. I just think you're all around cool person. So I'm glad that you're here for everybody in Live Masters and on YouTube to actually check out what you're all about. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Let everybody kind of know who you are. I'm going to make sure this is streaming and we're up and running.
Okay. Well, my name is Margaret DeBellotte. My legal name is Margaret DeBellotte Torres, because some people know me as that also. I am Miss D, the job coach. That's MSD, not MISS. It's important. If you look for me as MISS, you will never find me. MSD, the job coach. I'm a job coach and business consultant. I work with people who are transitioning their career. My niche markets is the working with people who are returning to the community from long and short-term incarceration or drug treatment programs. That's a group of people that I love to work with because most people don't know how to work with them. My background, however, is in human resources. I've been hiring, firing, training, and developing people for over 25 years. Yes, I started when I was 12. And so I've just had a great journey through many, many different doors. I work with also people who are transitioning their professional careers. So my story is I was downsized, right-sized, kicked out of corporate America, and I went through a transition, and it was very tumultuous. And I decided that I would help people understand how I did it successfully and reinvented myself. So I work with executives as well as graduating college students. So people are like, how do you work with all these people? And it's really not that tough. We can talk about it.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So go ahead.
I'm a trucker chick because I drive an 18-wheeler truck now.
Yeah, that's crazy. You would never know that you're a trucker chicken. And the funny part about that is you and I actually drove for the same company. I did it for a year with this company, and and we know what it's like to be on the road, right? Driving trucks. So
yeah,
you've done so many different things in your life. Like what is the most adventurous thing that you think you've done so far?
I think trucking, really. So the story on trucking, people go, how in the heck did you become a trucker? And I'm not a trucker. I am a woman who drives a truck. There's a difference. If you know trucking culture, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you don't know trucking culture, don't worry about it. Just remember that I take a bath. Mike knows what I'm talking about because there's some truckers that don't take baths all the time. Anywho, the reason why I decided to drive a truck was because I was working for an organization and I wasn't happy. And so what I generally ask my clients who are in that position is, what's something you've always wanted to do? And I was sitting in my office thinking about it. And I said, well, trucking's something I always wanted to do. And I was talking to a guy who used to own a truck. And we were talking about being a company driver and what the process was like. And we honestly started doing the math. And most of your viewers probably don't believe that I just had my 50th birthday this year. And I decided, you know what? I've wanted to drive an 18-wheeler truck since I was a kid. And here's a great time for me to do it. You know, in the middle of COVID, yeah, that's when you go to trucking school and decide to drive an 18-wheeler truck. But I did the math and I said, you know, I may not have this opportunity again. So I quit my job and went to trucking school over the summer. I'll tell you that it was not easy. I took a school that takes 3 to 4 weeks for most regular people. It took me 7 weeks. But I was successful. I currently have a commercial driver's license. It doesn't matter how long it takes you. At the end of it, they don't put your score or how many times you took the test on the license. It just says CDL like everybody else's.
Yeah, actually, I failed the first time that I failed the CDL test the first time that I took it. And the crazy part about it was I already had a CDL license for Class B because I drove buses first, right? And then after I got laid off from driving buses, I was like, okay, the state paid for me to go to trucking school. And I've always wanted to see the whole entire country, right? So that's why I did it. And I was supposed to be this person that kind of knew what they were doing, because I already had my license, especially with the air brakes. But that's the reason I failed the first time, is because I think I don't even remember the exact numbers that you have to give out, but there's numbers that you have to give out, cut out, right? When your compressor gets to a certain point and it cuts out, 120, something like that. What is it?
At the end, it's called a sale.
Yeah. You have to go through this, and talk all the numbers out. And I missed it. If you miss it by one thing, like you're done. So you have to do a full-on test, right?
Well, you know what? Be perfectly honest, I did perfectly on all that stuff. I graduated cum laude in college, so I have an undergrad degree in business, and so being able to study, so I could do stuff that other other truck drivers struggle with. I could do all the academic stuff. I passed the permit test, all of the parts of it perfect first time, all my pre-trip stuff perfect. The instructor said, I never saw anybody get 100 on the pre-trip, but you got 100, because that was all academic stuff that I could take home and study. But now learning how to back up.
That's a hard one. That's one of the hardest things to do, I think. Because everything's backwards. You turn the wheel one way and the trailer goes the other way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's then you'll just start. Yeah. But anyways.
So recently, a driving instructor told me trailers, those 53-foot trailers, he said, they're like a man. You turn and they don't respond immediately. You just got to wait for them. Just wait for it. He'll catch up.
Okay. So I'm assuming this was was it a female instructor who told you this, or a male instructor?
It was a male instructor.
Well, he's like, okay, I'll be there in a minute. Okay. All right. That's too funny. So now where are you right now? You're back east, right?
I'm in Tunnel Hill, Georgia.
You're in Georgia right now. Okay. So tell us a little bit more about what the stuff that you're doing online, as opposed to being a woman who's a truck driver, or a woman who drives a truck. Excuse me.
A woman who drives a truck.
A woman.
I love the fact that I can do coaching from anywhere. So people think you're a trucker and you're everywhere, and how do you coach? Well, I always wanted a lot of my coaching to be online because I could meet people online more effectively or frequently than I could face to face. COVID actually helped my business. Let me put it that way, because talking online is now much more acceptable, I guess. The group of people that I appeal most to are an interesting demographic of people. I would say 38 to 58. And they're usually in a stage of transition of some sort, right? So they've had some sort of career and they're saying, what do I do now? Kind of thing. That's what we're answering, the question of what do I do now? As opposed to somebody who's completely unemployed. That's a whole nother group of people that I help. But the person who's transitioning their career is the biggest bulk of my business. So they're busy. They want to meet with me in the evening. They don't have time to come to an office and all of that kind of stuff. So being able to meet virtually, since many of them have now gone to working virtually, they learn how to use Zoom and things like that. So my business is actually increasing now that people are more acclimated to contacting people online, and they're more understand that people are real when you see them inside of social media and you see them on YouTube and all of that kind of stuff. And I actually worked on building a lot of my online content years ago, but now they get it. They get it. They believe that I'm real, right? Before, my struggle was people didn't believe that you were real if you were inside the box on the social media. They were like, I don't understand that. It's much more nowadays.
Yeah, well, I think that's when you can harness the power of this right here, you know, I can't even tell you, there's people that have watched my videos and commented and messaged me, and they told me that they've, you know, obviously I've never met 99% of them, but when they message me and they say they feel like they've known me, or they know me their whole life or something like that, when you can make that kind of connection with somebody,
Absolutely.
that's what this is all about. And that's why I do the videos every day. I really love to connect with people. I mean, you know, when I'm out there doing videos and stuff, and I'm looking for people that I want to connect with, you know, it's like, yeah, it's real, because eventually I've met so many people in person that I've met right here, that have seen my videos, and then they end up coming to my house, and we have a barbecue by the pool and all that good stuff.
I tried to meet you when I drove through Vegas some weeks ago. It didn't happen to work out the timing wise, but yeah. What's funny to me is this is I read a book many years ago called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and that book said people do business with people that they know, like, and trust, right? And social media gives me an opportunity to tell people who I am. I have a level of transparency that allows people to connect with me because they see me as real. You know, seeing a person online, maybe they're real, you know, or are they just their online face? Are they their online, their personality, right?
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second, because actually we talked about that a couple of seconds before us, a few minutes ago before we went live, and the conversation was that some people don't want to go live on their personal page in front of people that know them, and other people say, well, you shouldn't do that either, because you got to be ready, you know, you don't want to make a fool out of yourself. And you know, then there's people like me and you who said, you know what, I'm going to do this, I'm going to figure this out, I don't know what this is all about, but I'm going to do it every day and figure it out. So there's two different types of people. I think people do miss out a huge piece of this. If you're afraid to be authentic and vulnerable, it's risky. Okay, there's no doubt about it, right? When you get personal on about your life on social media, it's risky because you're vulnerable. But where there's risk, there's significant reward, especially for something like that with the relationships, because there's people, when you open up and you're vulnerable and you're transparent about your struggles and things that you've figured out, that's when you connect with other people. They're like, okay, I'm not alone. Look, this guy, he's been doing this every day. I can do something. I can figure it out. If he can figure this out, I can figure it out. Right.
Yeah, people hear me talk about my own journey because I became a job coach largely because I had a story where I reinvented myself. I had the skill of being a job coach because I'd been a person who hired people and I kind of knew the process and I learned all about it by doing it as a job. And then I decided, you know what, I could teach other people this because of my own transition. In 2009, I was downsized from my corporate career. And I literally fell on my face. I had no idea what I was going to do next because if you remember 2009, that was our last big recession. And I was in the middle of, 60 something $1,000 a year career. And that job was gone and they weren't readily available. And at that point in my career, that was my identity. I was the trainer for XYZ telecommunications company. And that was such a large part of my identity because I traveled and all of these things. And it was punched in the stomach. That's really what it was. I had no idea, what the heck I was going to do next. And so I went through this transition. I went through this process of reinventing myself. And I said, this is a lot of people are in my same situation.
Yeah.
Let me tell them about how I did it. I mean, my recovery was long. It was years. I relocated in the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
So my business came out of my business, right?
Well, that's exactly well, when you can figure out one of the biggest problems that you have in your life, right? And you're like, okay, I got this. Like, I didn't know how the hell to talk to people online about my business, and I was terrified to do so. So I started doing videos and realized that if people are watching me and they start to engage, then that's an opportunity for me to get to know that person. It's that simple. And then it happens from there, and see if I can help them. No, because now I know I have something that can help other people, because look at, like you were talking about what's going on and how your business has been helped with COVID. Harvard, how much they charge for Harvard for
Like
tuition?
a lot of money.
A lot of money, right? Well, it's all been shut down, so it's all virtual. So they're learning just the same way that we're able to teach people online skills that they can go out today and apply for their business and actually make money, which is incredible. For what? Peanuts compared to, I'm comparing the education that we can give people online to the Ivy League schools. I'll tell you, because at the end of the day, it's results and what that education is going to be able to do for you as fast as possible. And there's nothing like this right here to make that happen.
Absolutely. I mean, well, I will tell you, I'm a professional speaker, right? I've done this for many, many years. This is what I do. Stand-up classroom was where I kind of started.
Mm-hmm.
And the company that I worked for did a transition into a virtual community. So I'm certified as a virtual facilitator also. So I try not to discourage people who haven't had the professional speaking career that I have. I try not to discourage them. I say, listen, have you seen my videos? Do you see how my hair looks some days? Do you see okay, let me reel it back here. I also do a show called Margaret in the Morning, right? That's how you met me, I think, was Margaret in the Morning. It didn't have anything to do with my job coaching. I think it was my Margaret in the Morning show, 6 a.m., 20 minutes every morning at 6 o'clock. I got myself out of the house, and I realized that there was a tie there between people who are job seeking. It's hard to get out of the house. You stay inside the house behind the computer and you think that's job searching. It's actually not, right? So I used to have to go and get my clients out of the house every day. And so 6 a.m., I had to get myself out of the house every day, right? So I had this 20-minute conversation with myself, and I started filming it to let other people hear what was kind of going on in my head, which I'm sorry, and I'm sorry to some people. Just interesting stuff going on in here. But the 20 minutes of pep talk that I gave people every day, you can do something. I mean, when you're in job search, there's some stuff that goes on, right? Some people get depressed. That's the reality of it. And I talk about that. I'm also a mental wellness advocate. I encourage people to deal with the stuff that is their emotions and their mental wellness during their job search process, because people do not hire people when they cry in an interview. And I literally have had people so depressed during their job search that they've cried in my office. So I know that situation. I talk to people about that. And my Margaret in the Morning show was just about encouraging people to get up and do something amazing with their lives. And that piece of it is the part that you met me. But I also had my little pieces of, I did a tip of the week called Working Wednesday. It was like a 7-minute clip on Wednesday. Wednesday is the hardest day of the week for job seekers because it's not the excitement of Monday or Tuesday, right? Monday, you're filling out applications and you're following up, and maybe you have some interviews, and Tuesday, you're doing that, right? And Wednesday, it just kind of slows down. So I started doing this 3 to 5 minute tip every Wednesday called Working Wednesday, giving people an idea of something that they could do. It eventually became a radio show. I had a conversation with a guy that has a radio station, and he said, so what would you do if you had a show? And I said, it would be called Working Wednesday. And I basically told him what I was doing on Facebook on my Miss D the Job Coach page. And he was like, cool, come in. And that's how my Working Wednesday program started on In Touch News Radio. So I had a radio program talking about my job search system, my 4 steps to job search. And, it's amazing to me, Mike, how these things kind of evolve one thing into another thing into another thing. But somebody told me some years ago, it is better to be prepared and not have an opportunity than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. So sometimes I do things and I don't know like what hole they go in, what peg that's going to end up being, and then they become something amazing. So I love it.
Okay, so you mentioned a second ago the 4 things that it's like the core of how you teach people how to go out there and get a job and stay on it, right? To get it, because it's not an easy process. So that being said, also we were talking about doing it on video, right? Because with everything that's going on, people are definitely getting interviews and they're having to do them on video. Like they're like, employers are like, okay, send us a video. And not only that, employers are going and they're looking at your social media, right? What is the stat that for job prospects or people that are going out with prospective employers check people's social media because it's public, right? Like 80%, 80, 90% of employers are looking at people's social media. Is it higher?
It's greater than that. Unfortunately, as an HR person, I always felt that it wasn't really fair, honestly, that we would go look at people's social media, but it's a reality. It's what people do. Because I feel like your social media is your personal life. And I always felt like as a professional, it should be kept separate. But like you said, it's public, it's out there, right? And it's an insight. So
that's a very interesting topic that we should definitely talk about. Like, I mean, we could do an hour conversation on this topic alone, because I think that business and personal life on social media in the context of social media, there's gray. It's no black and white at all. And you really truly can. That just goes to prove how people really can figure out who you are based on the stuff that you post on your social media. And that's why employers want to see. I mean, if I'm going to have somebody come on my team and I'm going to work with somebody and I'm going to put my time, energy, and effort, mentorship, and everything that I've learned over the last 4 years of doing this, I'm going to look at their page. And if they're talking about politics and they're all this crap, then yeah, you know what? I'm glad. Thank God I was able to see that instead of having to waste time with somebody that I know is just, maybe eventually they might, whatever. But I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Let me tell you a conversation I had with another HR person recently. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this was kind of weird because it was her daughter's social media that she was critiquing. So this person is an HR director, and she was challenged because her daughter on her, I think, Instagram or one of her social medias had a picture of herself and her bong. And so her daughter has a license, a prescription license, whatever it is, right, to smoke because of a medical condition. And so her mother was frustrated with her. She says, you're a business owner. You shouldn't put that up on your social media, blah, blah, blah. People are going to have an opinion, blah, blah, blah. And I said to her, consider coming into the 21st century, first of all. Second of all, this is who she is, and she's being transparent, because there's more than one way to think about that, right? Would you want your people who do business with you not to know that you smoke and then find out accidentally and lose faith in you? Or would you want to be transparent about it up front and say, this is who I am? So as a person who has worked with the formerly incarcerated, I tell them, I coach them to getting in front of their record before the employer mentions it, right? So there's some things about you that can be taboo for certain people. But I say, then that's not your market. That's not who you want to work with. If my transparency causes you not to like me, then I'm not the person for you, right? If I'm fake and phony and eventually it's going to come out, or we're going to break up anyway. So why not decide on the front end? That's my thought process.
Yeah, either get discovered or found out, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I'd rather get in front of the story and tell it my way than to let somebody look at something and then come up with their own interpretation. I've got story after story. That could be a whole 10 more shows about people who were in interviews. And I had a girl who cried because the interviewer Googled her and turned the computer around and showed her mugshot. That was so rude of him. And I said, she came to me crying. She said, it was awful. I said, but you don't want to work for him anyway, so who cares that he did that? I said, aren't you glad he did that before he hired you than for him to do it after?
So they were in a video interview and he did that?
No, it was a face interview. was a face.
Oh, face to face. So then he literally was like,
her.
Googled her and then looked her up and went, and then turned the computer around and say, oh.
And it was
Wow.
on her application that she had a record, because my clients don't hide it. It was on her application. And he Googled her and he said, he Googled her, showed her mugshot and said, why should I hire this person? And she did not, it shocked her.
Well, there's plenty of opportunity for people, right, that don't necessarily want to have to be judged or go through any of that crap of judgment to get a job, to make money, to take care of their families. We live in an abundant world of opportunity right now. There's a lot of them. That it's a good and a bad thing, right? That there's a lot of opportunities, because you don't know what's good, you don't know what's bad. If you don't know, you don't know what you don't know. So, but I think that it's encouraging for people that do have a checkered past, that they would be judged for, because of the opportunities that exist in the marketplace today with a business. I mean, you can start a business, there's business you can start for free, start making money. There's business you can start for 30, 40, 100, 200,000, whatever,
Yeah.
So
here's how people to get around that. Here's the number one way to get a job. And you're going to love this one, Mike. The number one way to get a job is through networking. Somebody in your network knows somebody who'll hire you. And that warm introduction gets you past a lot of the nonsense that is interviewing. Because here's the deal. When I was hiring people, if someone walked in my office with the resume of somebody that they knew and I liked them, I was going to instantly like the person they gave me, right? Because you're not going to ruin your reputation at your job by passing off somebody that's crap, right? You're going to be somebody that you respect. And so your introduction of that person would make me put aside my stack of people that I don't know and want to interview that person if they had the qualifications. So networking, finding somebody who can introduce you to somebody who can get you hired is the number one. That's my first step. Who in your network can get you hired? Get off of Indeed and all that cold calling nonsense of looking it up online. Forget about that. Who can help you get hired? That's my first question. Network.
This is gold. This is gold right here. As you are telling me this, I'm thinking back to some of the best jobs I've ever had, and they were all people that say, "Hey, you got to meet this guy. Listen, I want to introduce you to this guy. I was telling him about you," and it was through the network. Okay, so that's the number one. Is that part of the 4?
Yes.
Because we didn't get to that. Okay, so that's number 1, right? What's the other 3 that you teach people on how to, on your job?
The second thing that I teach is how to, because applying is not that easy anymore, right? There's computer applications, there's no paper applications anymore. People have no idea how to fill out the application. The boxes are this big. My name is this long. What do I do with this nonsense, right? And so teaching people how to go through the application and resume submission process is step 2. So networking and then applying. What happens after the application? You absolutely are going to get an interview. The law of large numbers dictates that even if you do it poorly, somebody is going to call you. May not be the job you want, right? But somebody is going to call you just by your activity. So networking, applying, and interviewing. Interviewing is number 3. Number 4 is kind of a wraparound. So when you reach out to people in your network, I recommend that you follow up. When you put in an application, I recommend that you follow up on that application. When you interview, I recommend that you follow up. So step 4 is really a wraparound of the first 3, which is following up. And I teach different techniques to following up. Okay.
So let's ask you the most famous question in any job interview that probably I don't know if they ask it all the time anymore, but it's probably one of the most common questions in a job interview. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
I love that.
How do you answer that question?
Okay. Here's what
in an interview context.
Yeah. So here's what I explain to people. First of all, that question is actually an incomplete sentence, because what they're actually asking you is, tell me about yourself professionally. That's what they want to know. The purpose for the meeting is who you are professionally, Because when you start saying things like, well, I'm originally from New York and I like long walks in the park and the beach is beautiful and I've got 4 kids, and that's not the answer they're looking for. They don't want to know all the reasons why they shouldn't hire you, because if they don't like New Yorkers, you're not getting hired. If they don't like people with kids, you're not getting hired. If you like long walks in the park and they think that people who walk through the park are weirdos, you're not getting hired. What they want to know is, who are you professionally? So when you answer the question of tell me about yourself, the technique that I teach is go down your resume and give them a high-level overview of what your career has been and some of the highlights of your career that make you an excellent candidate.
Wow. That was really good answer. That's awesome. Great advice. So yeah, I'm really excited that we finally got this interview in with you. Definitely gonna have you back for some other stuff that we're working on coming up.
Okay.
But before we go, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you. What's the best social media platforms, sites, pages, websites to reach, follow you, and stay connected to you?
I'm on all of them. So you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. What else is there? All of them, all of the basic ones, right? Twitter. You can find me on Twitter also. And I'm on there as ms.d, the job coach. So I try to be consistent in getting MSD, the job coach, on everything. MSD, the job coach, is also my email address. So if you want to reach me directly, you can email me, msdthejobcoach@gmail.com. And people always ask me about this last thing, which is my website. So let me tell you about my website, Mike. I have to relaunch my website because about 2 years ago, I had a web designer that locked up my web address, msdthejobcoach.com, and I ended up losing my domain. So listen, you guys told me. I told you already, I'm the transparency chick. I don't care about telling you about my business. That mess made me angry, and I divorced all web designers at that point. I didn't want to talk to anybody about a website. I don't even like websites sometimes because, anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. So my website will be relaunching by first quarter of next year, and it will be www.msdthejobcoach.com. I have an amazing web designer that came at me and said, hey, I saw your domain is available. And I said mean words to him, and he still sent me a proposal that is beautiful. And so he's working on it. But until then, call me. My phone number is 704-277-8714. Yep, I give people my phone number. You know why? Because I don't got to answer the phone if I don't want to. 704-277-8714. Or reach out to me on social media. You can even reach me on my personal page, Margaret DeBellotte. I don't, inbox me, whatever. Just don't send me anything that is too terribly personal. Make sure all your clothes are on. Take your mute off, Mike.
I said, oh, good Lord.
That's another show.
Yeah, that's a whole nother show for sure. All right. Well, listen, thanks again for tuning in, and everybody that tuned in tonight or today, or whatever it is, wherever you are. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for another incredible interview with one of our live masters. We'll talk to you guys later. Goodbye, everybody.